The fall begins.
The world trembles as orc leaders rise from the shadows, claiming city after city. Superheroes fall one by one, their powers no match for the ruthless horde. Skies burn with chaos, and hope fades from every corner of the globe. In the heart of destruction, Superman, Spider-Man, and Hulk make a desperate stand. And there, in a storm of fury, Hulk clashes with the monstrous orc Hulk, shaking the earth itself. The city lay in ruins, a shattered skeleton of steel and glass. Fires burned in every street, smoke choking the sky, turning day into a permanent twilight. Orc banners, black and blood-red, fluttered atop toppled skyscrapers, and the echoes of war drums shook the ground like a heartbeat of the apocalypse. Citizens ran screaming, their cries swallowed by the roars of monsters and the crack of collapsing concrete. Somewhere in the distance, a shadow moved faster than the eye could follow. Spider-Man swung between the remnants of high-rise towers, his web lines tearing through the air like silver lightning. "This is worse than I imagined," he muttered, landing on the edge of a broken rooftop, his eyes scanning the battlefield. Below him, civilians scrambled toward temporary shelters, while orc scouts, hulking creatures with armor like jagged stone, tore through the streets without mercy. Their leader, a colossal beast, moved with terrifying intelligence, a terrifying mirror of someone he should have been able to trust. Hulk was already in the fray, smashing through orc soldiers as if they were made of paper. Each swing of his massive fists sent shockwaves that splintered walls and shattered vehicles. The ground trembled beneath his weight, and his roar echoed across the city like a primal warning. Yet even Hulk's rage was met with equal fury. An orc Hulk, towering in green, its eyes burning with unnatural fire, rose from the wreckage of a collapsed building. The two titans locked eyes, and the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Superman arrived next, descending from the storm-darkened sky, his cape fluttering like a banner of defiance. He moved faster than thought, deflecting debris mid-flight and snatching civilians from falling structures. "Hulk!" he shouted, landing beside the green behemoth. "This isn't just another battle. It's a war we can't afford to lose." Hulk grunted, his muscles coiling as he readied himself for the inevitable clash. "I got this," he growled, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. There was something wrong about this orc Hulk. Its movements weren't random. They were calculated, almost human in their cunning. The first strike came with a deafening boom. Hulk slammed a fist into the orc Hulk's chest, sending shockwaves that ripped through the street, tearing asphalt and shoving fleeing civilians aside. The orc Hulk didn't stagger. It countered with a swing of its own massive arm, crushing a line of parked cars like toys. Sparks of energy from the collision lit the battlefield in bursts of green and violet, a signal that this fight was far from ordinary. Spider-Man flung himself into the chaos, shooting webs at smaller orc warriors to clear a path. "I've got civilians trapped in that bank," he yelled, swinging toward the smoke-choked building. He shot a web line through a shattered window, pulling debris away with the precision born of desperation. Every second counted. The orcs were multiplying, and more of their kind seemed to pour from the cracks in the streets like some unstoppable tide. High above, Superman tore through an orc warship hovering over the skyline, sending it crashing into the remnants of a highway bridge. The impact created a shockwave that rattled the entire area, and even Hulk felt it in his bones. But no time to celebrate. The orc Hulk was advancing, its every step crushing the ground like an earthquake. Its roar challenged Hulk's own, a sound that made windows shatter miles away. The two titans collided in the center of the city with a force that shook skyscrapers to their foundations. Hulk swung. Orc Hulk dodged, countered, and slammed his fist into Hulk's side. Hulk staggered but didn't fall, swinging back with a furious roar, sending Orc Hulk flying into a burning car, which exploded on impact. The ground cracked beneath them as rubble and fire rained down. Civilians screamed, and Spider-Man barely managed to save a group from collapsing debris. Meanwhile, the rest of the superheroes arrived in a coordinated assault. Superman's heat vision cut through the armored orcs, Spider-Man's webs immobilized advancing squads, and Hulk simply demolished everything in his path. Yet no matter how many orcs fell, their leader, the Orc Hulk, remained, its every move a calculated response to the hero's attacks. It was as if this creature was anticipating every punch, every strike, every tactic. A sudden, ear-splitting roar from the Orc Hulk made the ground quake again. Hulk leaped high, swinging down with both fists, aiming straight for its opponent's head. The Orc Hulk sidestepped, grabbed a massive chunk of the city's ruins, and hurled it like a missile. Hulk dodged at the last moment, the rubble smashing into the street behind him, scattering Orc soldiers like leaves in a storm. Spider-Man landed next to Hulk, panting but ready. He's learning too fast. This isn't just strength, he's strategizing, he warned, firing webbing at the advancing orcs. Hulk growled in agreement, his eyes narrowing as he assessed his massive adversary. Then we hit harder, he said, charging again. The Orc Hulk roared back, swinging with enough force to create a crater in the street. Buildings shook, cars flew, and the very air seemed to vibrate with their battle. Superman tried to intervene, flying at blinding speed to block the next attack, but the Orc Hulk was relentless. Each blow pushed the city closer to total annihilation, and the heroes realized the stakes. If this fight went on, it wouldn't just destroy the city, it could destroy the world. And still, the clash continued. Hulk and Orc Hulk exchanged blow after blow, shaking the streets with every strike. Spider-Man zipped through the chaos, trying to save civilians and aid his allies, while Superman worked to contain the larger destruction. The battle was raw, brutal, and unstoppable, a titanic struggle that had no room for hesitation or fear. Every street was a battlefield, every building a danger zone. The clash between Hulk and Orc Hulk was more than just physical. It was a contest of wills, strength, and fury. And as the sun disappeared behind the smoke-filled horizon, the city watched, terrified and awed, as two of the most powerful beings on the planet tore the world apart with a single, unstoppable fury. The clash of titans echoed across the skyline, and in that instant, it was clear. The heroes were fighting for survival, but this orc leader, this monstrous Hulk, was no ordinary villain. He was an unstoppable force, a nightmare forged from both magic and science, and the fight had only just begun. The air burned with the smell of smoke and ozone as Hulk and Orc Hulk tore through the city streets. Each punch shook the ground like an earthquake, sending chunks of concrete flying in every direction. Civilians fled wherever they could, but there were no safe zones left. The battlefield was everywhere, stretching from skyscraper to rubble-strewn avenue, with chaos reigning supreme. Spider-Man swung low, dodging falling debris, webbing orcs to walls and cars in desperate attempts to buy the civilians a moment of safety. Superman, he's too strong. Spider-Man shouted as the ground quaked beneath another of Hulk's swings. Superman swooped down, his fists glowing with heat vision energy, slicing through waves of orc minions as he tried to flank the Orc Hulk. But the monster anticipated every move, leaping with terrifying speed, landing with fists that shattered armored vehicles like glass. Hulk roared, swinging with pure fury. Every blow he landed on the Orc Hulk sent it flying, but the creature bounced back with the resilience of a nightmare made flesh. Its laughter, low, guttural, and cruel, echoed across the ruins, a sound that made even the most hardened soldiers flinch. Hulk's eyes glowed with rage, veins bulging as he leaped again, smashing into the Orc Hulk with bone-crushing force. Buildings trembled, glass exploded, and the streets became rivers of fire and destruction. Spider-Man ducked under a falling beam and shot webbing at the orcs advancing from a shattered skyscraper. "We can't hold them off forever," he yelled, swinging toward the chaos to save a trapped group of civilians. They were pinned under debris, screaming, their fear palpable. One by one, he flung them to safety, barely dodging falling rubble himself. High above, Superman engaged the smaller orcs with precision attacks, but the battlefield was collapsing around him. Roads buckled, bridges cracked, and smoke curled into the sky like a living thing. He fired his heat vision at an orc warship hovering above, reducing it to molten steel before it could fire on fleeing civilians. Yet all the while, his eyes kept snapping to the titanic fight below. Hulk versus Orc Hulk. The monsters clashed again in the street, fists colliding with a sound like rolling thunder. Hulk swung, Orc Hulk countered, and a nearby skyscraper collapsed under the pressure, trapping a dozen Orc soldiers in the rubble. Hulk's roar shook the horizon, and Orc Hulk's guttural bellow answered, sending birds and debris scattering in every direction. Each strike they exchanged sent tremors through the city, shattering windows and cracking streets for blocks around. Spider-Man ducked as a huge chunk of concrete sailed past him. "Hulk! Superman! You got to finish this fast," he shouted. Civilians were still trapped everywhere, and the city's defenses were crumbling. Orc reinforcements poured through broken streets and destroyed buildings, their roars joining the chorus of chaos. But the heroes didn't hesitate. There was no time for hesitation. Hulk grabbed a streetlight and swung it like a bat, smashing Orcs left and right, sending debris flying. Orc Hulk responded by ripping the pavement from the ground, hurling it at Hulk, who dodged and countered with a thunderous punch that split a car in two. Superman flew down, catching a group of Orcs mid-air with precise blows, sending them crashing into wrecked buildings. Spider-Man, swinging between collapsing skyscrapers, shot webs with relentless speed, binding Orcs in midair, flipping them into one another, and clearing paths for civilians to escape. Then, Orc Hulk lunged at Hulk with terrifying speed, swinging a wrecked bus like a club. Hulk dove aside, narrowly avoiding the crushing impact, and slammed the ground with his fists. The resulting shockwave sent Orcs flying across the street, some landing in burning cars, others tumbling into craters created by the battle. Superman landed beside Hulk, shaking the debris from his boots. "We can't let him keep this pace," he shouted, eyes locking on the Orc Hulk. The two titans collided again, the force of their blows sending a shockwave that rattled buildings for miles. Hulk roared, pushing every ounce of his strength into the fight. Orc Hulk matched him blow for blow, each strike more destructive than the last. The street beneath them buckled and cracked, forcing Spider-Man to swing even higher, narrowly avoiding the falling debris. Civilians fled through alleys and broken streets, their lives hanging by the slimmest thread as the battle escalated beyond anything the world had ever seen. Hulk and Orc Hulk traded punches that shook the very foundations of the city. Every swing, every roar, every impact tore the battlefield apart. Orcs surged in from every direction, but the heroes didn't falter. Hulk caught a falling skyscraper beam mid-air and hurled it at Orc Hulk, smashing into the monster with a deafening crash. Orc Hulk staggered but recovered instantly, its glowing eyes locked on Hulk with lethal intent. Spider-Man dodged yet another projectile, shooting webs with precision, saving civilians trapped beneath rubble. Superman fired his heat vision in a controlled sweep, disintegrating incoming Orcs with brutal efficiency. And in the center of it all, Hulk and Orc Hulk clashed again, fists meeting with the force of cataclysmic thunder, throwing shards of concrete, fire, and debris across the battlefield. The roar of the Orc Hulk echoed, chilling even the most courageous heroes. "Hulk, smash me, if you can," it bellowed, swinging a wrecked tank at Hulk. Hulk leaped, dodged, and slammed his fists into the Orc Hulk with unimaginable fury, sending the monster flying into the remains of a collapsed bridge. The impact triggered a chain reaction of explosions and rubble falling, forcing Spider-Man to swing frantically to rescue civilians. The battle raged, and even with all three heroes fighting at their limits, the Orc Hulk continued to rise, relentless and unstoppable. The city was crumbling, and every second counted. The fight was far from over, and the true horrors of the Orc invasion were only just beginning to unfold. Part End. The city was a war zone, a skeleton of twisted metal, shattered glass, and burning streets. Smoke and fire choked the air, turning daylight into a permanent dusk of chaos. Orcs swarmed everywhere, their numbers seemingly endless, their shrieks blending with the roar of collapsing buildings. Spider-Man swung through the wreckage, webs lashing Orcs together, flipping debris, saving civilians trapped under the chaos. "We can't hold them off much longer," he yelled, dodging a chunk of falling concrete. High above, Superman soared, his eyes glowing as he fired precise heat vision bursts, slicing through armored Orc squads. "We need to end this before the city is completely destroyed," he shouted, his voice cutting through the cacophony of battle. But his attention was drawn again to the titanic fight below. Hulk versus Orc Hulk, a clash of forces that defied logic. Every punch shook the streets, sending cars, rubble, and orcs flying in all directions. Hulk grunted, swinging with pure rage. Orc Hulk countered, using a massive chunk of street as a weapon, hurling it like a missile. Hulk dove aside, narrowly avoiding annihilation, and slammed the ground, sending a shockwave through the battlefield. Orcs were launched like toys, but new waves surged from the shadows, relentless, hungry for destruction. Spider-Man zipped through the chaos, web snapping and binding orcs midair. "Superman, we can't cover the civilians and fight the orcs," he yelled. Superman responded by tearing through the advancing horde, but even his speed couldn't stop every attack. Buildings were collapsing around them, streets crumbling, and fire spread like wildfire. The entire city was in peril. Hulk and Orc Hulk collided again in the middle of Main Street. Hulk's fist slammed into the Orc Hulk's chest, sending a shockwave that shattered nearby windows and created a crater in the asphalt. Orc Hulk retaliated with a massive swing, smashing through cars and sending Hulk tumbling into the remains of a bank. Dust and smoke filled the air, obscuring the battlefield, but the sound of their roars echoed clear, two unstoppable forces tearing the world apart. Spider-Man swung close to Hulk, firing webs at orcs attempting to flank him. "Hulk, you need to hit harder. Stop holding back," Spider-Man shouted. Hulk's eyes glowed with green rage. "I'm going full strength now," he growled, charging Orc Hulk with a roar that rattled skyscrapers. The Orc Hulk met him head-on, their collision sending a shockwave that threw orcs and debris across multiple blocks. Superman dove in to assist, catching a falling section of building midair and tossing it back at the advancing orc army. "We have to contain the damage," he shouted. Yet no matter how many orcs were destroyed, the Orc Hulk pressed forward, relentless and cunning, each move calculated, each strike devastating. It was clear this wasn't just a monster, it was a tactical predator, learning and adapting with every blow. Hulk grabbed a piece of wreckage, swinging it like a massive club, smashing into Orc Hulk's midsection. The Orc Hulk roared, pain and fury in perfect harmony, then charged, swinging an entire bus like a battering ram. Hulk dove aside just in time, the bus smashing into the street, shattering everything in its path. Spider-Man swung close, firing webbing to hold back orcs scattered by the debris, but the chaos was overwhelming. Superman hovered above, eyes scanning for civilians trapped in the wreckage. He swooped down, picking up small groups and placing them on rooftops out of immediate danger. "We can't let them reach the city center," he shouted. The Orc Hulk, sensing an opportunity, lunged at Hulk with brutal precision, smashing through a barricade of rubble. The two titans collided once more, the force so great that entire blocks of the city were reduced to rubble in seconds. The roar of Hulk and Orc Hulk filled the skies, a clash of unstoppable forces that left nothing untouched. Sparks, debris, fire, and smoke created a storm of destruction, and the heroes fought with everything they had just to survive and protect civilians. Spider-Man dodged and weaved, saving lives, while Superman's heat vision burned through the Orc horde. And still, in the center of it all, Hulk and Orc Hulk clashed with relentless fury, shaking the earth with every strike. The fight was far from over. Hulk's rage burned hotter, his muscles coiling for the next strike. Orc Hulk's eyes glowed brighter, its every move faster and more lethal. Civilians screamed, debris rained down, and the city teetered on the edge of complete annihilation. Yet the heroes pressed forward, knowing that the survival of the world depended on the outcome of this battle. The city skyline was a nightmare of fire and smoke. Streets were rivers of molten asphalt, buildings hung by twisted steel, and orcs swarmed like a relentless tide. Hulk and Orc Hulk were at the center of it all, trading blows that shattered concrete and sent shockwaves echoing for blocks. Each punch tore through the battlefield with the force of a bomb, sending debris and orcs flying like leaves in a storm. Spider-Man swung low, web snapping as he caught civilians plummeting from crumbling skyscrapers. "This is insane," he shouted, narrowly dodging a falling beam. "We need to take him down now." But even as he moved, more orcs poured through the wreckage, their monstrous cries filling the air. Superman dove from the sky, his eyes blazing red as he sliced through orc squads with precise heat vision blasts. He caught a massive piece of debris mid-air and hurled it into the advancing horde. "Hulk, don't hold back," he bellowed, his voice cutting through the roar of the battle. Hulk roared in response, muscles bulging, veins glowing as pure fury took over. He charged Orc Hulk, swinging with such force that the impact cracked the street beneath them. Orc Hulk countered, catching Hulk's fist and slamming him into a row of burning vehicles. Hulk hit the ground with a deafening crash, but sprang back instantly, eyes blazing with rage. The Orc Hulk laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "You can't stop me, Hulk," it bellowed, swinging a wrecked bus like a weapon. Hulk dodged just in time, the bus smashing into a building that crumbled into rubble. Spider-Man zipped through the chaos, webbing orcs midair, tossing them into each other, and keeping civilians out of the line of fire. Every strike between Hulk and Orc Hulk shook the city, toppling skyscrapers and cracking streets. Superman flew in, firing beams that cut through armored orcs and stopped them from advancing. But the Orc Hulk was relentless. Each of its movements was precise, strategic, and lethal, anticipating every counterattack. Hulk grabbed a chunk of a collapsed bridge and hurled it with all his strength. The Orc Hulk caught it, threw it back, and charged with terrifying speed. The two titans collided again, fists meeting with an impact that sent a shockwave through the city, sending debris and orcs scattering in all directions. Spider-Man ducked under a falling lamppost and fired webs to bind orcs flanking Hulk. "You've got this, big guy. Hit him harder," he shouted. Hulk's eyes glowed brighter, veins pulsing as he let out a roar that made the ground tremble. Orc Hulk responded in kind, their battle creating craters and sending fires blazing across the city streets. Superman swooped low, lifting rubble and tossing it at orcs to keep them away from civilians. "We can't let him break through," he shouted. But the Orc Hulk's focus was on Hulk alone, its massive fists swinging with devastating precision. Every collision caused buildings to shake and street lamps to explode, a symphony of destruction echoing through the city. The city was on the brink of total collapse, and the heroes knew the fight was far from over. Hulk and Orc Hulk's clash had reached a level of fury neither had ever faced before. Every strike, every roar, every explosion was magnified, turning the battlefield into a relentless storm of chaos. And still, neither Hulk nor Orc Hulk showed any sign of slowing down. The stakes had never been higher. Civilians screamed, orcs advanced, and the heroes pushed themselves to the limit. The fight wasn't just for the city, it was for the world. The city trembled like it was alive, screaming under the weight of destruction. Fires blazed across every street, and smoke twisted into the sky like black serpents. Orcs poured through the rubble, endless and merciless, but all eyes were on the titanic battle at the center. Hulk versus Orc Hulk. Every punch shattered concrete, every swing flattened vehicles, and the ground quaked beneath their unstoppable fury. Hulk roared, muscles bulging, veins glowing with rage. Orc Hulk met him blow for blow, its monstrous strength matched only by its cunning. The two collided in a deafening clash, sending shockwaves that threw orcs and debris flying across the city. Spider-Man swung through the chaos, webs lashing orcs to walls, cars, and even each other, clearing paths for civilians. "Hulk! Superman! Finish this!" he yelled, dodging falling beams and burning debris. Superman dove from the skies, his heat vision blazing red, slicing through orc hordes with precision and speed. He lifted massive chunks of crumbling buildings, hurling them at the advancing orcs while keeping a vigilant eye on the titanic clash below. "We can't let him win," he shouted. Hulk charged with unstoppable fury, swinging a chunk of skyscraper at Orc Hulk. The Orc Hulk caught it effortlessly, hurling it back with bone-crushing force. They collided again, fists meeting with a thunderous boom, sending debris flying in all directions. The battlefield had become a storm of chaos, fire, and smoke, a nightmare of destruction. Spider-Man swung low, saving civilians from collapsing structures, firing web after web to immobilize orcs. "We can't lose now," he shouted, adrenaline pumping as he narrowly avoided a falling steel beam. Hulk and Orc Hulk roared, their fury echoing through the city like rolling thunder. Each strike shook the ground, crumbled walls, and sent orcs scattering in terror. Superman landed beside Hulk, lifting him just long enough to redirect his momentum into a devastating punch. Hulk slammed Orc Hulk into a crumbling skyscraper, sending the monster through the building like a wrecking ball. The Orc Hulk emerged, staggering but far from defeated, its eyes blazing with lethal intent. Hulk roared, swinging with full strength, fists colliding with Orc Hulk in a titanic showdown that shook the horizon. Superman fired heat vision, Spider-Man unleashed his webs, and the combined force of the heroes created a chain reaction of destruction that scattered orcs and obliterated the battlefield. Yet the Orc Hulk refused to fall, each movement calculated, each strike deadly. The final collision came with a deafening shockwave. Hulk and Orc Hulk slammed into each other with all the fury of titans, concrete cracking, steel twisting, and fire blazing around them. The city shook as if it might collapse entirely. Orcs screamed, civilians fled, and Spider-Man clung to the remnants of a building, barely escaping the chaos. Then, in one explosive moment, Hulk landed a punch that sent the Orc Hulk crashing into the ground, shaking the earth with the impact. Dust, smoke, and fire filled the air. The orcs scattered, their morale shattered, as Hulk stood, chest heaving, eyes blazing with fury and triumph. Superman hovered above, surveying the battlefield, and Spider-Man swung through the wreckage, saving those still trapped. The battle was over. The city lay in ruins, but the heroes had survived. The orc leaders had been driven back, and the Orc Hulk was defeated for now. The war had been brutal, unrelenting, and fast-paced beyond comprehension, but humanity had held its ground,